internet creators. This is a meetup group here in Chicago. We meet about once every 2 months. Used to be once every month, but now I'm in grad school and we're all busy. But yeah, we meet, started out as a group for YouTubers in Chicago. We've added Instagram, podcasters, people who make stuff on the internet, media generally, and want to think about how to do that more. So thank you all for coming out. Virgil, Emily, Jason, raise your hand. These are some of my co-committee members who help coordinate events. They are awesome. So if you have any questions, oh, and hey, Nikki's here too. She's also on the committee. If you have any questions about how to get more involved, plan more events, just ask one of them or me. It's really easy to be on the committee. All you need to do is talk to me a bunch and then I tell you you're on the committee. And Michael, you're basically on the committee because you have meetup access now. So yeah, you're all like only a couple meetings away from being on the committee.
You're on the committee.
Yeah, Ryan's basically on the committee, but Ryan is the wonderful host. He runs the space, the Indy City Co-op that we're at. I have a desk over there. Meetup no longer provides us with free space because their IPO didn't work out. But this has been our space for a few times now, and it's really great. And there's parking, which a lot of people like. So anyway, hi, I'm Dave. You may know me from the internet or real life. And hello, internet. Jason will be watching the YouTube comments, and he will let me know if there's anything I need to respond to, like a super chat or a relevant question, and he'll just filter out all the nonsense questions, which is 99% of YouTube, let's be honest. Super chat from Ryan?
For about 45 years now.
45 years?
4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years. I was like, that would have been impressive because I haven't watched me for 45 years. 4 to 5. Hi, Ryan. Thanks for the super chat. Yeah, this is on my channel, Brick 101. So, why are we here tonight? That. Provocative title, right? So, my YouTube channel, Brick 101, now has 700,000 subscribers as of like 2 days ago. It passed that mark. I've been running it for 10 years. It has about 600 videos, and it has generated about $1 million in revenue, right? So those are some interesting numbers. Let's talk about it. All right, so first of all, I lied. Right? Like, that was the good thumbnail title for this talk, but really, if we think about like what's led to where I am with this business, we really need to talk about 27 years, 836 videos, and only really $622,391. Why? Why is there that level of detail? We'll get into it. But actually, it's more like this. So this is just a preview of what this talk is going to be like, where I'll say something really simple, and then I'll maybe take you a level down. And if you really want to, I can take you down to this like granular level where I lay out exactly where these numbers came from. Because like, I love real numbers. Also fake numbers, but for today, we'll talk about real numbers. All right, Brick 101. This is the like 30,000 foot view. Brick 101, it's a YouTube channel. I make cool things using Lego. I make videos. I make money. Done, right? That's my business. The end. If you're not familiar, Brick 101, it's got a variety of, oh, that should have autoplayed. Whatever. That would have just been a little video of me being like playing with Lego, whatever. So you might have a question like, okay, make Lego videos, question mark, profit, right? The like underpants gnomes business plan, right? How do you connect making videos to making money? So that'll be like a recurring theme that we'll talk about. You can have a really advanced business plan that is like about your target audience, what's the value provide, all that kind of shit. But for me, right, a business plan is just like, what am I doing and how does that make money? That's really what I'm going to be covering today. Another thing I like to think about, right, because this day and age, like being a YouTuber, it's a thing, it's a career. People want to do it because it's like, oh, you can do what you're passionate about and make money and it will never feel like work, which is a lie. But I always think about like if I was like back in college and I was talking to myself from the future, about like what I was going to do to make money after school, which was not something I thought about until literally the day I graduated college. And I was like, uh-oh, wait, what? The real world? I really like this idea of like a triple Venn diagram of skills, likes, and jobs. So skills are like things you can do that you're good at. Likes are things you enjoy. And then jobs is like an external thing. Like what will people in the world pay you to do? And so theoretically, right, there is a perfect little thing in the center of that where you can have a job that pays well, that you're good at, and you like, right? That's kind of the new American dream these days. But the reality is, like, sometimes there is no middle, right? They just, like, the circles don't line up. Or maybe your circles are like this, right? There might not actually be a place where these three things align. Also, all of these circles are constantly changing, right? Like investigative journalism, that used to be a thing people could do. It's not anymore. I mean, it is, right? But the number of people who can do that is much smaller these days because advertising money has shifted to my benefit, but, you know, to the detriment of, like, society. And, like, you know, what you're good at and what you like also changes over time. So this is, like, not something you just do once, but you kind of constantly reevaluate as you're thinking about, like, what is my career? So if we look at my business over 10 years, I like went back and crunched the numbers. Like, these are real numbers for my business. 2010 is when I incorporated. That I was a sole proprietor, and I switched to S Corp in 2015. But the red line at the top is revenue, and the blue line below is profit. So for kids who don't know, or people who don't know, right? There's a difference between how much money a business makes and like what actually you as the owner of that business get to take home. And like the way I'm using profit, I calculate profit here is I think literally what my take home salary plus distributions are, not necessarily what the business, I don't know. It's really fucking confusing to keep track of your finances when you have multiple companies and you also have day jobs. But you can see the first few years of my business, it wasn't like great. Like there was red revenue, but there was no blue profit, right? So the first 3 years of my business, I was losing money or making nothing. And there's that famous statistic, what, like 90% of all businesses fail in their first year, right? So YouTube was not something I was able to just like start and then be like, great job, done. It took quite a while before, you know, it got to a point where it was profitable. And we'll come back to this graph in more detail later. But now, like, all right, you're like, okay, well, what's your magic secret of success? That's why you're here, right? You want me to teach you the secret of business. File not found. Right? If anybody tells you there's like one single secret to like having a successful business, they're lying and probably trying to get money out of you. But like, all right, I'll give you something, right? Otherwise it'd be really awkward. So this is really my secret of success. Try different stuff, measure success of stuffs, and then do less bad stuff and more good stuff, right? And there's actually a lot embedded in this, which means do different things. You can't just keep doing the same thing forever, at least not in this economy. So I actually had to try lots of different things, put enough effort into them to get results that I could actually measure, then actually do the work of measuring and analyzing profit margins and returns and blah, 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 and then decide, okay, this thing is not making money even though I like it, so I should stop doing it. And this thing is making money even though I like it less, but it's still within the realm of my business, so I should do more of this and less of that, right? And actually changing. And like, it's kind of like natural selection, if you're familiar with like biology, right? It's just like there's a bunch of different moths. Some of them survive, some of them die. Reproduction, it's basically the natural success thing. Anyway, but also have privilege. So like, this is something I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs don't talk about, is that like, I started my business from an incredible position of privilege that a lot of people don't have. So I just want to like lay it all out there so you don't think that I'm telling you something you can do and then it doesn't work for you, because like I was operating from a place that a lot of people don't have. So, right, I'm cisgender male, right? So I don't get random bullshit for just being a woman visible on the internet, right? I'm white. I, get all sort of privilege because of that. I'm upper middle class. My parents paid for college for me. I had an amazing education for free. I'm able-bodied. I can do lots of things. I'm neurotypical-ish, a little neurodivergent, but good enough to like operate in most social contexts pretty easily. I entered the workforce pre-2008. What happened in 2008, everybody? Recession, right? Like I graduated in 2007. I can tell the difference between the people, like my friends who graduated my year and the ones who graduated 1 year later, and like just what we were able to do right out of college is drastically different. And like, I don't think that world is ever coming back. And I also married the best human. His name is Bert, and he has been an amazing partner in like every sense of the word throughout this whole time that I've been running this business. So, that's given me stability. It's allowed us to merge our finances, and he was a marketing genius. So like all of these things I have that a lot of people might not have. So it's like hard for me to just say like stuff in the business. All right, so that was like quick view of my business. Now let's like take a longer view. I'm gonna take a sip of water because I'm super dehydrated. How y'all doing? Any questions thus far? All right, so let's take the longer view. All right, so Dave, that's me. So I've been on the earth for 35-ish years. Here's a cute video of me that's not playing because I didn't test these videos today. Normally plays. Let's see, can I get that to play? Nah, all right. It would be me in Christmas 1993 opening a Lego gift. This is important because this is like the earliest recorded footage of Dave. And so that's a turning point because I know it's when my family got a video camera, which meant that in 1993 I had a video camera. So I was able to start making movies at the age of 8, which was, again, a huge privilege compared to most people then. Obviously now, all 4-year-olds can make great videos with an iPhone, right? Like Bert's niece is like 2 and uses the phone better than his mom, who's 60. Yeah, so being able to start making videos, and they were really bad videos, and none of these are going to play because I didn't check them. But here's like a really bad screenshot of one of them. So when I just made Lego videos on my own for a decade before YouTube existed. So like even when I started YouTube, I wasn't starting from scratch, right? I had been doing little films at home and on my college campus for a long time. So when I started YouTube, it looked like this. It was gross. I had a channel called Fallen Tomato Films because this was back in the era of the internet where everybody just had like random nouns as their name, as opposed to now when people are generally their real name or like a clever brand name. So this channel was like 2006, I want to say. I don't talk about it much anymore because it's irrelevant. It has like 1,000 subscribers. It was great. It was like when YouTube first came out, it was just like, wow, I can send a movie to anybody and they don't have to download like a real-time player clip and it takes 2 hours and just like having embedded video was a huge thing. And that's where I got on YouTube. And I lucked out that YouTube's algorithm back in the day took one of my very first video on YouTube and put it on the front page of YouTube because there was no good content. And so my terrible Lego Mario video got 400,000 views in the early days of YouTube. Again, something that was not really due to it being great content or me being very thoughtful. I was just kind of in the right place at the right time. Here's a great college-age photo of me when I cut my own hair. It was super lanky before I had glasses, making a Lego video. At this time on the internet, there were not YouTubers, right? That was not a thing yet. So the only kind of thing that I had to look at as like, oh, this person is doing the kind of thing I want to do was Homestar Runner, which was a series of flash animations, but it had a cast of characters. It was funny, and they just put up videos for free on their website, and then you could buy t-shirts and stuff like that. And that was enough to, according to their website, that was their full-time job. And I was like, I want to do that, right? Like, I want to make silly videos, sell merchandise, and make that a job. So now my business plan had a middle part, right? Make Lego videos, sell DVDs and t-shirts, profit. So this is actually like 2006, right? This is also even before the 10 years of my 10-year business thing. But actually, I'm lying again, because my real business plan was to have a great day job. Because all of this stuff that I did for my business, I did in my free time at night after working a 9-to-5 job. Because as I said before, this business did not make me money for 3 years. So I feel like it's really insincere for me to talk about business success without talking about the fact that I had a 10-year day job career in digital marketing. So the first 5 years I worked in video production, which meant I was filming, editing, producing, managing budgets, talking to clients, like all stuff that became super helpful when I had to run my own business. And I learned all of those skills while being paid to do work. And that was an incredible thing that I was able to get a job that was close enough to what I wanted to do that I was able to build a lot of skills and then transition over. And, you know, again, pulling out, if we look at this chart, we've got 3 things here. The blue one is my day job take-home pay across this 10-year period, and then the red is Brick 101 profit. So we can see that, like, again, the beginning of the business, it was mostly the day job that was allowing me to pay bills. And then in 2015, we get to this wonderful, magical year where I somehow had like Brick 101 booming without having doing it full time, and I had a day job, and we had a good amount of money, but I also got married that year, so a lot of that money went to that. And then 2016 was the year I transitioned, so I only worked like half a year. 2017, you can see I have no like normal day job income. That was the 1 year I was fully Brick 101. And then 2018, I was half the year Brick 101, half the year day job again. So again, like I don't want to give off this impression that, right, like even as successful as I've been, that I've been like just full time on this, even for, you know, the most recent years. It's been a back and forth balance. And so the other thing is like, it's kind of crazy, right? I already had a job that involved video, which was something I liked, that I was good at, and that paid well, right? Before I was even doing this. So really, I like took it one step further and I drilled inside this and I was like, no, it's not good enough that I like my job. I want to love my job, right? And so I was gonna build this business. But again, right, like depending on who you are, that little overlap might not exist. Bert and I like to talk about the belt buckle guys. So these are just like guys that you see at like a craft fair who are like selling belt buckles. And it's like, I'm sure people buy those belt buckles, but they just seem kind of sad a lot of the time. It's like, boy, I sure am glad you weren't into belt buckles, right? That I was into, like, it just so happened that Lego also had a huge resurgence in the time when YouTube did, and that I was in the right place to profit off of all of those things. And if I had been like zooming in on belt buckles, it's not as clear that I would have even been able to build a business. I'm sure there's great belt buckle businesses. I'm not trying to like pick on them, but it's just a fun visual. Anyway, we were talking about selling DVDs and t-shirts. So how did that work out for me? So in 2009, I actually launched the channel Brick 101, except it wasn't called Brick 101. It was called The Nightly News at 9 with Phil and Sherry, because it was a scripted stop motion animated comedy series. Took a month to make a 2-minute video. And so I actually started scripting this in 2006, workshopped the scripts, built up props, and then like when I was actually animating in 2009, 2010, it was taking a month just to do the animation and editing, and even then I wasn't getting out a video per month. This was earlier in YouTube before everybody was doing everything all the time, so I was able to get some good traction, and like I was well connected enough in the Lego community that I knew how to market it. So anyway, this is me in 2010. This is where I made my very first business dollar, was at a Lego fan event that happens every year in Schaumburg called Brick World Chicago. So it was a market that I knew because I had been going to this event for every year it existed, which was I think 3 years at that point. And so I had 50 DVDs that were printed out and was selling them for, I tried to sell them for $10 a piece, or was it like 15? People did not want to pay what I was originally asking, so I dropped the price over it. I did not make a lot of money, but I did like meet people, show them my videos, and started selling some DVDs at this. And I forgot to bring it, but I do have like my very first dollar that I ever made doing Lego related things, framed in Lego. But this, and I've been to this show every year since then, and I usually have a booth and I'm just there marketing my stuff, right? So again, the fact that there was one of the largest Lego fan conventions in the country / the world, 30 minutes from where I live, was a huge thing that just happened, right? The fact that I had a niche audience that had a physical location where I could just put myself in people's faces and say, watch my YouTube videos, watch my YouTube videos. Not everybody gets that, but it's something to think about is like, are there offline places where your business can connect to your audience? Those of us who make video games here travel around to conventions around the country. Sometimes they're local, but sometimes you have to travel if you want to market your products. So when you're at a Lego show, nobody here is a Lego person, right? Yeah, okay. If there was a Lego person, I would have asked them this question. So I have this beautiful like sculpture I've made out of Lego. I've put dozens of hours into it, and it's just immaculate. It was from my imagination. And all the people from the public who are coming up to it ask the same exact questions. Is this a Lego set? Are there instructions? How many pieces? How long did it take? It's really boring, and there's like Lego fans who have the answers to those questions on a t-shirt because they don't want to engage with the public. But this is actually like really valuable marketing data, right? These are the questions that every Lego fan knows that every like general Lego fan wants the answer to. But most Lego builders can't be bothered to answer these questions for people. They're tired of hearing it, and they just brush them off. That'll come back in a minute. Also in 2011, I did a Kickstarter. I raised $3,000. That's like a little blip on my chart. My camera had been stolen, and so I needed a new camera. And then that was to make my second DVD. And so that was kind of a combination of like pre-sales for a DVD and also some merchandise stuff. But in trying to promote that Kickstarter, I realized it takes me 2 months to make a video. I have 30 days to promote this Kickstarter. I need easier content. So I answered the question that everybody always asks, and I showed this little robot, this little pinch bot here. It's like 10 pieces. I showed how to build it. It's a character from one of my movies, the movie that I was raising money for. I could make the video in an hour, upload it. I did 5 of these in a week, little just instruction videos. It answered the question that people were already asking. It was still related to my product. It got me more visible on YouTube, helped me raise money. And this series, How to Build, now has 200 videos that I've done of how to build X out of Lego. And it's my longest running, largest series on YouTube. It way eclipsed the performance of my carefully scripted, funny, original character stuff. Just answering people's questions in a fun video format ended up being much better content. And right, like my husband was telling me this from the beginning. He's like, why don't you do cool stuff out of Lego that people want to see rather than your little stories, right? Just like make Mario or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm an artist. Like, I have to make this. And then when I started doing this, he's like, I told you that 2 years ago. We love each other. It's just fun to... so anyway, I also tried selling t-shirts and no one ever bought one. But I did try selling figures for a while. So that PinchBot that I showed, I did order parts for it at one point and have 100 of them at once that I could then sell. And they had like the best margin of anything I tried to sell that was like a physical Lego thing. It's really hard to make a profit buying Lego and then repackaging it because you have to buy Lego sets in the store which already have retail markup. Even if you're buying from other Lego fans, which you can do, like there's just so many levels of markup that you're adding onto. It's really hard to make a profit doing this kind of thing. These were also rewards for the Kickstarter campaign. So if you pledged a certain level, you got one of these with the DVD. I also tried to make my cast in bulk, but they used a lot of parts from like 1980s Lego sets because I just built them out of what I thought looked cool for my cast and hadn't thought in advance of how will I mass produce these later. Now, right, if I was going to do this show again, I would work with Citizen Brick, who used to be in this building, but he's, I think, just moved to the suburb, who mass produces custom Lego torsos. He actually did the I Heart Evil torso for me, the one I have the most of there. But I'm not trying to do this any. I also did these weird custom robots where I would specifically buy a Lego set and then ignore the instructions, build a character out of it, put that character in my movie, because then I could know, oh, if I buy 10 of this Lego set, I can make 10 of this character and sell it. But they were weird fucking robots that were like in the background of one episode. So I don't know why I thought they would be like a good product. So anyway, at this point, where we're talking again in really detail, step by step through the years, we're basically in like 2013. So I started in 2010. Lost money every year, but I was making revenue by going to shows, selling my DVD, selling this merchandise, and I also just resold like Lego minifigures, right? Which is not have anything to do with my content or my business, but it was a way to just generate revenue so that I could offset the fact that I was going to a convention. And that was also before there were a million vendors that go to every Lego convention and just resell every Lego minifigure. That's like a whole racket now. But it was a way for me to basically pay for what was a marketing trip by just doing some other business thing I could do. And people like to buy Lego, so it wasn't that hard. Now, if we zoom out again, right, 2010, this is revenue over time. You probably would ask, like, what happens at that inflection point, right? Like, what did you change about your business that you went from making, like, I don't know, $15,000 a year to, you know, eventually over six figures? Again, revenue, not profit. And the answer is I made a spreadsheet. So this is the spreadsheet that changed my life. I put that in the description of this event. So people were asking me, can you build X out of Lego? Can you build Y out of Lego? And when those requests first started coming in, like this was back when I read every comment that came into my YouTube channel. Whenever someone would ask, like, can you build this thing? I was like, cool. And I added it into the bottom of a Word document. I just had a running list. But then that list had 100 things in it. I was like, well, this is getting unwieldy. So I was like, I'll make a spreadsheet. And originally I was just doing it in the order the requests came in because, again, it was like, I wasn't getting so many of them that I couldn't, and it just felt like the right way to do it. I was like, wait, like a bunch of people are asking for like the same thing. And so then when I did this first spreadsheet and said, all right, how many people have asked for the same thing and orient it by number of votes. So you can see some of these things have over 6,000 votes. This is years later after this spreadsheet has been around. The very first thing that popped up was Sonic the Hedgehog. It had 10 votes, you know, which was 10 out of like 100 total requests I had at the time. That's a huge percentage. So I did Sonic the Hedgehog, and it's one of my most successful videos ever, right? And again, it wasn't like I did rocket science. I just listened and did what people asked me, and I like Sonic enough. So it has over 7 million views. I've done a better Sonic since then. And that's, I don't know if I'll talk about this today, but there's like a pillar and spoke strategy for content that basically, if you have a good, solid piece of content that you know is going to do really well, then you want to make 6 or 10 related pieces of content that are the closest related. So in addition to Sonic, I've done Tails, I've done Knuckles, I've done Robotnik, I've done Metal Sonic, because all of those things feed off of this one video. And all of those videos do better than any other random video on my channel because they are in proximity to this hub piece of content. Anyway, so that was like 2013, where I was like, made the spreadsheet, and then like I just did that every week that I made a how to build video, usually generated by what people had asked me for, but I also mixed in whatever I wanted to do, like Maleficent or whatever. And so then it became really clear that I should stop doing everything else and just focus exclusively on YouTube ads, because I didn't have to travel anywhere to like physically sell things to people. And it was fun, and it grew really fast. So that's then how this red giant hill there is YouTube ads effect on my business over, again, the course of the whole 10 years. So way down at the left there are like DVD sales, Kickstarter, what else? Lego set sales. They barely even rate, though at the beginning they were the real main thing that was happening for 3 years. But then as this YouTube ad thing started to take off, I made my spreadsheet. Then I was like, it's all YouTube ads all the time, grew this enormous hill, which eventually crested, and now I have to like abandon. But you know, I wrote it for quite a while and then diversified, and we'll talk about those diversifications. Because that was like a huge impetus that allowed me to grow my business. I'm going to pause to drink water. Questions, thoughts?
Let's say, what's the cut for YouTube ads for you?
Great question. So YouTube shows an ad to you when you watch one of my videos. YouTube keeps 45% of that revenue, and I get 55% of the revenue. So it's not as good as like the iTunes store, which keeps 30% and gives you 70%. I'm sure Steam has something like that. But YouTube is a monopoly. There is no other video sharing service that gives creators revenue, period. Right? Like, name one. Okay, resounding silence. So YouTube has no competition. If you look at the global share of video streaming sites and like exclude things like Netflix, which are a totally different model, but that are like user generated, YouTube has like 50% of the market share, and then the next closest competitor has like 2%. So it is like, it really doesn't need to give us a better deal than that. And you know, it's still a pretty good deal. It's better than, again, when there's no competition, any deal, it's the rigged game in town, that whole saying. Other questions before I move on?
In 2010, you said you started tracking. What were you making before? How did you decide in 2010?
Oh, so 2010 is when I became a business. So that's when I incorporated as a sole proprietor and officially started making money. I started this YouTube channel in 2009, but that's back when you had to apply to become a partner. So I didn't actually become a partner until 2010. I think I made $54 in YouTube revenue in 2010, and that was the first year I made revenue on YouTube. I think some of 2009, those views, I made money, but it wasn't enough to even get a payout, maybe, so. And again, like I had another YouTube channel before this, but it was just a YouTube channel. There was no money attached to it. I didn't know what I was doing. This is the history of like me actually being a business. That's why I used 2010.
You made a conscious decision in 2010 to be a business?
Right, so that's the years like, I have a DVD. I need to sell this DVD. To sell this DVD, I need to be a business. So I incorporated in the state of Illinois, also the state of wherever Seattle is, Washington, because I was going to a Lego convention there. I collected sales tax, right? Did all the stuff that like a normal kind of like brick and mortar business does, except I was like a roaming business that just appeared in various states for like 2 days per year. But yeah, I mean, if you're making money, you should be a business, right? Like that's, unless it's getting filtered directly into your personal stuff through a W-2, I guess technically you can be a 1099 person without being a small business, but you should generally be a business if you're making money and it's not from a normal employer. Cool. Minecraft. So Minecraft happened, and there's a really great MatPat video about the history of YouTube and Minecraft and how YouTube was very instrumental in the rise of Minecraft because there were these people doing Let's Plays of Minecraft back in, say, like 2011. And they were these hour-long videos, which was rare on YouTube at the time to have videos that long, and kids would watch the whole thing. And so YouTube's algorithm at that time was like, oh man, like these people are watching lots of YouTube content, because adults at that time, there wasn't much stuff that could keep their interest that long, unless they were into Minecraft. But generally speaking, Minecraft was for children at that point. And so YouTube's algorithm started promoting Minecraft videos to the front, and it became this big virtuous cycle of YouTube and Minecraft. And I inadvertently wrote that just on the Lego side of it. So in my how to build list, somebody said Minecraft, and I was like, oh, I should look into this Minecraft thing, because this was before its like official launch. It was like still technically in beta, but it had been around for 3 years, and like gamers knew about it. But I mean, anyone here never heard of Minecraft, right? It's like it's a cultural phenomenon now, but in 2011 it wasn't yet. I started making Lego Minecraft stuff, and then as soon as I had made one of those, I got requests for every other Lego Minecraft thing ever. And this was before Lego started making their own Lego Minecraft sets, so there wasn't a lot of Lego Minecraft content on YouTube, and YouTube is the world's second largest search engine. So Google, that's what everybody uses, then YouTube, and then whatever Bing, you know? So like YouTube, like Google owns the world's 2 largest search engines. So YouTube, if you typed in the words Lego Minecraft back in like 2011, 2012, I was like the first 20 search results, because I just kept making these videos and they were my best videos and there was no other competition. And I just had this amazing search engine optimization thing I didn't even realize that was like the cornerstone of my business until I lost it. So this like drove a lot of the growth of my business in that 2013 to 14 period. And then Lego came out with their own sets, and then there was a lot more competition for Lego Minecraft, and I am no longer anywhere near the top of the results of Lego Minecraft anymore. Like, I still have like videos that get watched in Lego Minecraft, but it is now a whole, you know, world unto itself and very hard to get recognized. So again, like, because I had this, I was actually listening to my comments in a spreadsheet. Like, I had this finger on the pulse of the zeitgeist of YouTube kids inadvertently, and so it led me to things like Minecraft before lots of other people would have been there. Oh, this was supposed to be my animated Brick 101 logo, which is to say we're 5 years into the story and now I'm Brick 101. Because at this point, remember, my channel during all this was still called Nightly News at 9 with Phil and Sherry, despite the fact that most of my stuff was just tutorial content. So I changed the name to Brick 101, kind of the idea of, you know, entry-level, approachable Lego content, Brick 101. I like the name, it worked. This is like my most watched video ever. It's Lego Scooby-Doo. This was, so I started doing reviews of Lego sets in addition to Lego tutorials. This one, Warner Brothers, who owns Scooby-Doo, was partnering with Lego to make these sets, and they sent me a giant box that contained every single Lego Scooby-Doo set that was being produced. There were like 6 of them, and before they were on store shelves, and they sent it to a bunch of YouTubers, but I got this video up before the other big Lego YouTuber, Jangbricks, and I'm still proud of beating him to 1 review ever, because he was like the Lego review guy, right? He doesn't do tutorials. I did tutorials, started dabbling in reviews, and then Warner Brothers also would add these videos to playlists. So, and then this is one where, because this, and this also got linked as a suggested video on gameplay footage of a Lego Scooby-Doo mobile game, which accounts for like 10% of this traffic. And that's, again, the stuff you can do in YouTube analytics to see where your traffic comes from is insane, and you can lose yourself in there. But anyway, this video just became another one of those hubs that I had lots, because I did every Lego Scooby-Doo video at once. But again, it was a circumstance of me getting something before it hit the street, which is basically impossible now because Lego realized it doesn't need to do that, right? And they make their own internal videos. They have a whole like hip millennial YouTube Lego show called Ribriculous, and we're gonna do crazy pranks. And they, so they have their own, like they realized, right, that there were people like me and many others who were making all this Lego YouTube content, and that they could just do it themselves and own those media impressions and control it. So they're not great about sending stuff in advance. And they're like the largest toy company in the world, so they don't really care about individual YouTubers. But anyway, this was like a small window in which my level of followers was able to get a company to send me a product, and I was able to do an early review. So I was able to like get a huge spike that's like higher than many of my videos combined, right? This has over 20 million views. And there's like very specific reasons that it happened that I couldn't replicate. But it also means that any opportunity I had after that to incorporate Scooby-Doo into one of my videos, I did, because then this video would drive traffic to it higher than a video on my channel that didn't have Scooby-Doo. So this very quickly, if you follow these kind of patterns to their logical extremes, leads to the kind of garbage salad YouTube titles that proliferate on kids' YouTube, which are just like Elsa, Spider-Man, Joker, dance party, finger numbers, right? Which doesn't make sense to you and doesn't make sense to the children because they can't read, but the algorithm feeds and then it all just happens. So and it's hard to do that really well as a human because like it just erodes your soul to just call your videos a string of keywords, but it also is so successful that like the business side of you can't help but do it. Which leads us to Five Nights at Freddy's. Gonna pause for dramatic effect. Who here knows what Five Nights at Freddy's is besides like you two? Okay, yeah, you three. All right, Matt. Sorry, question?
We got a super chat.
Oh.
Tip for the awesome ridiculous impression. Mr. Hinkle drops.
Oh. Thanks, Mr. Henkel. He's cool, Kevin. All right, Five Nights at Freddy's. Imagine Chuck E. Cheese, right? Pizza party, fun, like robot animals, video games, good time, right? All right, but now you're the night security guard and the robots come to life and try to kill you. This is a video game that was released, 2014 and has 8 different games in the series already. It has a movie coming out. There are tie-in novels. This is huge. It is not the level of Minecraft huge. It is not quite the level of Fortnite huge, but it is a significant portion of children know everything about Five Nights at Freddy's, and you have never heard of it. I found out about it because of my spreadsheet. Five Nights at Freddy's didn't immediately jump to the top, but as I was updating it, like this thing went from 0 to like 50 when I had things that were in the hundreds, and I was like, oh, I guess I should look at this closer at this Five Nights at Freddy's. So I did one video. It got to 1 million views faster than any video I had ever done before on my channel, which was in the space of a month. And so then I immediately did my pillar and spoke strategy and just did every other Five Nights at Freddy's character I could do. And it just, the more I did it, the more I drew in the Five Nights at Freddy's audience that overlapped enough with Lego that they wanted to see it. Kids also just like, there weren't also a lot of toys in stores at the time I started doing these. There are, Five Nights at, if you like walk down the toy aisles at Target, there's one aisle that exists in like every Target now, which is just like weird internet stuff. Toy aisle, and it has Five Nights at Freddy's, it has Minecraft, it has Ninja, the Twitch streamer, it has FGTV, which is a YouTube. So I suggest if next time at your Target to walk down the toy aisle until you find the weird internet stuff, and then you will see all the things like Five Nights at Freddy's and Bendy and the Ink Machine and Baldi's Basics and Hello Neighbor, which is just like this. So Five Nights at Freddy's was so big that it also then led to give attention to any other like weird horror game that had kiddie aesthetics. Because that's the thing, it's like these are all really cute characters that want to kill you. It's such a weird thing to talk to adults about. This is so big for kids and you don't know what it is. Anyway, so I was making things out of Lego to look like Five Nights at Freddy's characters, and then this Lego competitor, McFarlane Toys, which is not typically a Lego competitor. They don't usually make bricks. They usually make Spawn action figures or NFL action figures. It's literally Todd McFarlane, the guy who came up with Spawn 20 years ago, started a toy company, mostly makes action figures, but then they got the license to make Five Nights at Freddy's construction sets. And if you had typed, Five Nights at Freddy's, Lego, or construction into YouTube at the time these came out, I was the first 10 results because I had learned my lesson from Lego Minecraft, right? Of losing something, and I was going to protect that search engine niche with everything I had because, again, it was the core of my business. So they reached out to me, sent me their entire product line, again, like a month before they were announced or on shelves. So, and then I just got into and they're a small company. So there are like, I don't know, maybe 50 employees as opposed to Lego, which is an international conglomerate of, thousands and thousands of employees. So like when I went to Toy Fair the next year, like people from this company like recognized me in the food court and like called out my name and it's like, oh, it's, this person I've been emailing with, And so they would send me prototypes of sets before they had even gone to production, anything, because they didn't pay me to do that, because they didn't need to, because this was so popular. I was making bank doing anything, and I got this early access that no other channels were getting because most people didn't give an F about Five Nights at Freddy's, aside from Puppet Steve, my nemesis. Puppet Steve, he's a fine YouTuber, but he was basically the only other person covering this content with frequency and of a size that it was like impinging on me. So then anytime he would make a new video or a new type of video, I would steal his idea, make it better, and then just beat him. Thanks, Puppet Steve. So this is if you had typed Five Nights at Freddy's, or no, McFarlane Toys, the name of the company that makes this product. My videos outrank their official YouTube channel in the search engine. That is like how much I owned this part of search, because again, like most people searching in YouTube for McFarlane Toys weren't looking for the Spawn action figures because this was such a kid phenomenon and YouTube is a place for kids, if you didn't know that. Oops. I just rose above everything. It's insane. Question?
Yes, I just wondered, since you're using the name McFarlane Toys in your description that's helping you show up in the search engine, is there any backlash or any legal concerns on doing something along those lines?
They want me to promote their products. Do you know how much free press they got from me, right? Like, nobody would have known their first set existed had it not been for my video, right? I mean, people would have eventually found out, but where do kids get their information these days? The internet, right? And like specifically like a toy review, like that's a whole huge category on YouTube. So the state of copyright on YouTube is effed up, right? Like that's just like the understatement of the century. No, well, it can be century now, right? No, decade, whatever. Anyway, copyright is messed up on YouTube. And right, I was also you could have asked that question about my Lego Sonic video, right? Sega could have come after me because I'm using the character of Sonic without having property. So Nerdy Nummies and I have this like weird kind of thing where we're crafts, right? We're arts and crafts. here's instructions on how to make a thing. I'm not charging you for it. This is something anybody could do. It's a reproducible thing. If I was to take the instructions that I show in a video, put them in a PDF and charge people money specifically to get that PDF, then they would probably have a way to come after me, right? Because I would be selling a product with their brand without permission. But because it's like free entertainment, and like Lego was really bad about this when fans first started making videos in like the 80s with like Super 8 cameras and then tried to like show it in film festivals. They're like, you can't use Lego, right? That's like, but like now, like that battle was lost when YouTube started, right? Like no company wants to be in the position of like stamping down on things like this, aside from Disney, right? Let's, you know. And Nintendo. Ugh. They've gotten better, but only very slightly. So, I mean, there are still companies that would come after people, but there's so much stuff out there, and like my stuff is far from the stuff they're concerned about, right? Like, I didn't bring up Spider-Man and Elsa earlier, like just randomly. That is an entire niche of just adults who dress up like those characters and have their own stories, and because Disney won't let official clips of the movie be on there, then all of this fan content proliferates, and it's mostly terrible in every sense of the word. All right, I also wrote a book. Like, when did that happen? Do you know? I don't. So, all right, let's go back to our timeline. This is, again, my day job is the blue, and the red was Brick 101. And then I had a third job. My Twitter bio used to be, right, like by day, I work at this company. By night, I run Brick 101. And in the third half of the day, I write a book. And like, I literally had no social life from like 2015 through 2017. And a lot of it was because of this book, but also I was getting married and I was doing 2 jobs. I was a crazy person. I burnt out, like, spoiler alert. So I wrote this book with a co-author, David Pickett. He's another awesome Lego YouTuber. We came up with the idea in 2010. We formed a business to funnel the profits of this book between us evenly, because we each had our own individual businesses, but it made sense since this was a joint project. It's called Carter and Silverspine. We don't even have a website for that company because all it literally does is funnel the money. We got a book contract with a publisher in 2014. The book came out in 2016, did a book tour, and like, okay, see that yellow bar up there? That's the money I make off the book, right? Books are not like a great way to make money by themselves. The book has been an amazing lead into a lot of other things. And again, like that profit is my cut of it because we split it evenly. But yeah, books, and like it cost us a lot to even make the book. But that's another thing I did, which gets us back to this diversification thing. So in 2016, where the red starts to split off, that's when I quit my day job, went full-time, hired an employee, moved all my Lego out of my apartment to a studio in Wicker Park. So 2017 was the 1 year I was fully Brick 101. And so in that year, in addition to doing everything we could to like profit off of YouTube ads, we also diversified. So that purplish blue at the top is contract work. So we did a detailed stop motion animation recreation of the first nuclear reaction because Argonne Lab hired us to do that, which was a connection I had from my old day job. So again, the day job led to many things in my other job. And also just little random sponsored video projects. Sponsored video is a whole other topic. My channel has not been the best grounds for sponsored content because my niche is so niche, right? Unless you have a product that is Lego related, it wouldn't make sense for you to market your product through a sponsored video on my channel, but I've gotten a few. What else is on there? Licensing. That's just a blow up. So this is the nuclear power video. This is licensing. So there's an app called Epic, which is a reading app for kids that's freely available in every elementary school in the US and Canada. And then if you want it at home, you can pay a subscription fee. And in addition to thousands of ebooks for kids, they also have videos. And they like my how to build videos. They don't like my other content. But the how to build videos are close enough to educational that they pay me to take the videos I put up for free on YouTube and just for the right to have them on their app. So I don't get ad revenue there. They just pay me a chunk of money every January. And it's the easiest money I make every year because they've just kept re-upping. And I just send one email and then get a 5-figure check. It's amazing. I wish I could say I planned that, but they just reached out to me. Similarly, another website, Jam, has taken a bunch of my how to build videos, repackages them in their own way. They just pay me to, they're on a 3-year cycle as opposed to a yearly cycle. But again, I did a few emails. I told them no when they tried to lowball me, and then eventually they came back and made me an offer that made sense, and I said yes and got a bunch of money. So that's actually a way that a lot of YouTube channels make a lot of their money, is actually by taking all the content from YouTube and then selling the right to have that content elsewhere to other apps. Because if you haven't noticed, there are a million video services now, and they are all desperate for content. And YouTubers like us have, again, like hundreds of videos, right? Which is what you need. You need something that's a series that you can just say like, yes, I've watched 5 of these, so I'm going to sign off on all 100 of them. Not something that's complicated and everything is different. And so yeah, that's like a whole thing that different companies do that can help you license content once you have a library that's large enough to do stuff like that. This is the actual breakdown of all the money my business has made in 10 years by every source. So DVDs, Lego set sales, right? Like those took 3 years to make not a lot of money. I've made like $500,000 on YouTube ads over 10 years, which means YouTube has also made like $500,000 off of my content, and they have not given me $500,000 of customer service. Spoiler alert. Kickstarter, that one time. Workshops. So I also, when I wrote that book, and before that, I would do little workshops where I teach kids how to make their own Lego movies in 30 minutes. Now I do that at Salesforce. Tech companies have been bringing me in to teach adults how to make stop animation and give like a short version of this talk about entrepreneurship, because every company cares about entrepreneurship. So if y'all have a company that brings in speakers, I would be happy to take money to come speak at your event. This is not a joke. Please email me. Affiliate marketing didn't work out very well for me. So that's when you have a link to Amazon in your thing and it's like, oh, buy this thing. So I've made $700. It's not like no money, but it's not really even worth the time it takes to upkeep it. Licensing, so that's the money, the giant checks I just get every year. Book sales, contract work. Contract work is like, it's a whole other business stream that I have not really put the energy into building. Like that would be based on referrals, and also like Lego animation is like a really niche thing that not a lot of people have a need for on an ongoing basis. So that, like my co-author, David Pickett, actually, that was his business model, was doing bespoke Lego animations, mostly for the Lego company, but also other companies. And he had a whole studio in New York, did that for a decade. He is no longer doing that because like new people came on the scene, undercut all his prices, and Lego has found ways to do all of that stuff themselves cheaper. Contract work, again, not something that's worked out for me. Oh, and now I'm a game designer, and I've started making money that way. So this is a way to say that, like, right, this is going back to that original sentence where I said, like, I did a lot of stuff, I saw what worked, and I tried different ones, and I changed it, and I'm still doing that. Right, because this happened. So this is when I burned out of YouTube. I've written a 5,000 word article about this whole thing. Some of you have read, and I've told you like drunkenly after these events about it in great detail as well. But basically, all right, so I've said this like a couple times, like my videos, Lego content, primarily consumed by kids, right? Like, we all know that, we get that. So I get paid by YouTube a certain amount per view. That amount is an amount I'm not allowed to tell you because of the contract. It's stupid. Most people on the internet know that traditionally it was about $2 per 1,000 views. Yes, Jason?
We lost video.
We lost video. Cool. I'm going to wake up my camera then. Let's see if that brings.
You're about to disclose it, but they know.
All right.
They heard you and they said, cut them off.
Oh, wait. All right. Let me fix this. Boop, boop, doo. Okay, let me turn off those weird boxes and go back to PowerPoint. Okay. Video should be back. Oh wait, I have to double check that the streaming is still going. Oh yeah, it's still getting audio, but it hasn't been getting video. And there it is. Great. Technology. Gonna do that too. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So $2 per 1,000 view. That's the general CPM, which is cost per mil. Mil is the French word for 1,000. And CPM is like the wrong way to think about it, because actually what we're talking about is RPM, revenue per 1,000 views. So if I have a video with 1,000 views, I make $2. That's if my CPM was $2, which it may or may not be, right? So that was, I was getting a certain CPM represented by this giant green bar that's lovely from 2014 to 2017. Unbeknownst to me, I was in a special YouTube program called Google Preferred. Most YouTubers don't even know Google Preferred is a thing. But basically, YouTube says of all the YouTube channels, like this top 5%, these are the great YouTube channels. And if you're an advertiser, you could be anywhere on YouTube, but you really want to go on Google Preferred. So advertisers pay a much higher rate per view to be shown in front of Google Preferred stuff. So I was in Google Preferred unbeknownst to myself, because there's nowhere on your channel that it indicates that you are in Google Preferred. And so I was in there from like when it was initiated around like 2014 till November 21st, 2017, when YouTube promptly kicked me out as part of the Great Purge. So this is there have been many adpocalypses on YouTube. The first adpocalypse that most people think about is like summer of 2017. That's when they invented the yellow dollar sign, and like lots of people who had maybe borderline problematic content because of cursing or guns or whatever, like lost monetization. So I was part of the kids adpocalypse in November of 2017, which was instigated by this really smart person called James Brittle, writing like a very incisive article about how terrible stuff kids content was on YouTube that was called Something is Wrong on the Internet. It's on Medium. It's a great post about how awful the content that like toddlers around the world were watching nonstop was. And so there was a lot of terrible stuff that YouTube just had to get off, like Spider-Man and Elsa like getting pregnant and then the Joker giving her an abortion, right? Like that was being watched by toddlers, you know. That's just like, that is like the least offensive of the deep cesspool of terrible stuff that was being served algorithmically to children that not even necessarily human people put together, because there are YouTube bots that would just take clips of different animated things and mash them together and, you know, make dozens of channels just trying different things to see what would game the algorithm and get views. Even if they get shut down 5 days later, they've made some money, whatever. You know, like that is, you know, we think about Twitter bots and election hacking, but I don't know that many people have really thought a lot about what has been done to children's entertainment in the last decade, and it is horrifying. Anyway, so my channel is great, right? I'm a human, I'm thoughtful. Yes, I try to game the algorithm, but I also try to be thoughtful. I moderate my comments, you know, all that stuff. But any of us who were in Google Preferred and were really a kids content, they kicked out because it's illegal for YouTube to be collecting data on children, right? If you're under the age of 13, companies in America cannot collect data about what you do on the internet that's personally identified unless they have explicit permission from your parents, like written. That's why a lot of websites you might know, like, are you 13 years or older? Click this box, whatever, whatever, whatever. So YouTube had just been saying everybody on their app was 13 years or older, despite there being millions of channels that had the word kids in them, that they were for kids. And YouTube itself marketed itself as the #1 place on the internet for kids. It was like admitted how much they were breaking the law. Anyway, like, I never collected any data from my audience, but YouTube was collecting data on them. And so they're like, all right, well, we can't say these people are awesome and on YouTube and they're doing kids. So November 21st, 2017, I went from bar 1 to bar 2, which is just per view how much money I'm making. So overnight, 40% of my revenue per video, per view, disappeared, which meant I would have to work much, much harder to make the same amount of money. Which, like, this was a foundational part of that business plan, was just the rate at which I get paid per view. And that's how I calculated, like, when it made sense to have an employee, what hours. So this happened in November, and I didn't realize it until April, because November and December have higher than average ad rates because all the companies want to sell things around the holidays for Christmas. So ad rates are super high in November and December. So the fact that they dropped was hidden from me by them being much higher than normal, like they are every year. And then January is always the worst month of the year. So like January 2018 rolled around, I was like, wow, this is really low, but I mean, January is always bad. What do I know? And then like there was like a one-time glitch where YouTube miscalculated something and then just paid me $1,500 randomly later. That has never ever happened in my 10-year history, aside from the time when it was most confusing, when I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on my YouTube channel. YouTube has never admitted any of this to me, publicly or privately, that was this happening. I emailed them their customer service thing, took weeks to get back to me. They sent me copy and paste responses to things that weren't my problem. Then when they looked into it, they said everything looked fine. It took me months of just trying to figure out what happened to just figure out this main thing. And as soon as I did, right, and realized this was because I was kicked out of Google Preferred, right, and because it was because of kids content, like that there was no way I was ever going to go back up to that number. And this is when I had a full-time employee on a health plan. It was really crushing. Like, I only figured this out by reaching out to like YouTube experts like Tim Schmoyer and Josh Zimmerman, who many of you saw when he came here. He is the creator coach, so he specifically, his business is helping creators through burnout. And he's doing great because there's a lot of creators who are being burnt out. But I was one of his like first clients when he was switching over to that. And I just happened to know Josh from a couple years before when he worked at another company and he had tried to sell me on something I didn't want. And so I saw like a random update on LinkedIn, but he, in a single phone call, like took me into the back end of YouTube and like saw the one thing of which part of, because the CPM is also like 10 different CPMs, right? I am super simplifying everything here. The article goes in like depth of exactly which type of ad I lost on November 1st, 21st, 2017. But he helped me pinpoint it like immediately, and then I like finally knew what was happening. Like this was like, I had a partner manager at YouTube, which is the person I had the privilege of having a video call with every month. And every time I asked her about this, she would, say that she had to ask somebody else on another team, and then I would never hear anything, right? And now I know YouTube was under investigation by the federal government for breaking COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. That's what says you can't collect data on kids under the age of 13. So they could not admit to me that that is why they did this to me, because that would be evidence that could be used against them in an ongoing court case. So I understand why they couldn't say anything to me, but I am still incredibly furious, right? I made $1 million for YouTube, right? Again, if you think about YouTube's revenue, all the money they paid to me and that they got went through them. Like my content generated $1 million for YouTube over 10 years. And they could not answer a yes or no question, even when I figured this all out on myself through investigative journalism and asked like, can you say yes or no to this, right? To a high level person that somebody got me connected to at YouTube, right? Not even like on a off the record phone call could they say that to me. And I get why, but like that is the level at which my success does not truly matter to YouTube, right? And that like, this is where I built my whole business. Remember the huge graph, right? And if you think about like the implications this has for our economy broadly, right? If you think about how many companies are making all of their money by a bunch of distributed people doing something on an app like Uber or YouTube or TikTok or whatever, right? Like there are lots of people who have stories like me who are having it much worse. And like this is just going to be an ongoing thing, and we need much better regulation to like control these companies. And I have become even more radicalized about labor laws because of all of this. Anyway, so 2018, I had to, when I finally realized this, like 5 months after the fact, I gave my employee a month's notice so he could like start looking for another thing. And then we started packing up all my Lego. I moved out of that studio. I moved back to my house, and I was fucking depressed, right? This was like, remember, this was like a dream that I had built. And it felt like it was collapsing all around me. I had no energy to make videos. It was just a mess. So I got a day job again. I don't know. Yeah, so that's where that blue thing comes back up, is like, I went back on LinkedIn, I updated all my things. I'm like, how the hell am I gonna spin the fact that I like said, fuck you, corporate world, I'm doing my own thing, but now I have to come back. And like, luckily I hadn't been out of the business world too long that like my network had totally eroded. So I was able to find a job relatively quickly at that point. And then I got laid off 7 months later. So that sucked. What was I going to say here? That was, oh yeah, so right, red is the YouTube, right? And so you can see 2018 precipitous drop. 2019, the numbers aren't even quite right because I haven't done taxes yet, but yeah, like if it's that big of your business and it drops by that much percent, your business is fundamentally wrong. Okay, and so this was the bad time, and now this is the current reality on YouTube after the COPPA-related Made for Kids changes that just rolled out like 2 weeks ago. The amount that I get paid per video now, and it's hard to tell right now because it's January, so everything sucks, but compared to like every other January, like I'm now making 60% less than the 60% I was making. So the amount that I make per view on YouTube right now compared to what I was making in the good old days is like, it's insignificant. And like, I am so grateful that all that shit happened to me in 2018, because some people didn't know this was coming, right? There are lots of people who have been making content for kids on YouTube who were totally blindsided in September of 2019 when the FTC agreement came out, and every single YouTube channel got an email, right? Which never happens, saying like, you have to mark your content for kids or not for kids. Who remembers the email, right? Yeah, you all get that email, right? So most of you, like, you don't make content for kids. I know all of you, you don't make content for kids, so it was fine. But those who did and weren't hit by the initial purge and hadn't been paying attention to like this random investigation were blindsided. And you know, I will credit YouTube that they said what was happening, gave people a few months to adjust to it, and then enacted all the changes in January. And I know that it must have been a crazy negotiation with the federal government, because they basically said, allow us to keep breaking the law for 4 more months so that people can have a transition. I would have loved to have that kind of advance notice back in 2018, right? And 2018 ended up being my advance notice to get the fuck out of kids' YouTube for when it really went bad in 2020. And like, that number will actually probably go up again, the CPM, because companies still want to target children and show them ads. They just can't show them targeted ads. They can still show them contextual ads. Historically, contextual ads have a very low CPM versus targeted ads. Again, there's like 5 billion CPMs. Like, all of this is super simplified. But the companies that still want to reach kids will no longer be able to use targeted ads. So contextual ad rates in the kids content thing will go up, and YouTube is working on that because YouTube wants money too. So like, the amount that green bar will probably go up. It will probably never even be as good as this, and never as good as that again, but it'll be better than it probably is now in like 6 months. So, but like, a lot of people who got blindsided this are just like dead in the water for their businesses right now. So like, you know, it like, just as so many of the things that led me to success were like kind of these random chance things, like it was also like kind of random chance that I avoided this terrible catastrophe that could have, like, if I had been able to like make YouTube work in 2018 through 2019 and then been hit by this drop, and it's still been my main source of income in 2020, like, oh, I can't even imagine. So it's like weird, but I'm glad everything fell apart for me when it did. And like, the thing is, it's not like I'm fine, right? Like, look how much money I made in 2019. I didn't do shit on YouTube in 2019. I uploaded like 3 videos. Like $50,000. Again, this is revenue and not profit, and but like that's still a lot higher than like I was making at the beginning. So, you know, it's not the worst. And then, yeah, like going back to skills, likes, job, right? I didn't have social life in there, and my likes have changed. Like, I know the exact type of content I could make that would just be amazing, right, on YouTube. Like, I just take Five Nights at Freddy's, or, you know, whatever the new-ish Five Nights at Freddy's type thing is. Do whatever the fuck I want as long as Five Nights at Freddy's is in it, and I make money. And like, if you look at like some of the top videos on my channel, they're not even like narrative content or tutorial. I literally just had my employee take together random snippets of my videos, mash them up, and put music under it. It has like 20 million views. It's like, it's like not stuff that I actually care about anymore. So yeah, so then I had to like do soul searching and like figure out what is the rest of my life going to be about. Which is like really hard, you know, midlife crisis. So now I've rebranded. I'm not Fallen Tomato. I'm not, what else was I? Nightly News at 9. I'm still using the name Brick 101, but I changed the logo on my channel. Most people probably haven't noticed because I haven't uploaded shit. But so I'm half Lego and I'm half like Pixel because I just started MFA program at DePaul back in September to learn about game design. And it's awesome, and I love it. That's why I'm in this room, right? This is a co-op for people who make games in Chicago. I know that most of my audience doesn't care about my thoughts about game design, and that's fine. I'm not going to try to make game design a small business company that I do from scratch, because we've shown that's not my business model. I'm going to get a day job in games and then maybe eventually spin off something, and I'll figure out what to do with all my old YouTube things and Lego, and I still wrote a book and give presentations. So I'm still finding ways to make money using this. It's just no longer I upload a video to YouTube. So even the thing that was the most successful thing is actually no longer a core part of my business. Like this is actually more a core part of my business now, just like being in a physical space and giving an interesting talk. And that's cool because I like that too. And it's different and the people are cool. Anyway, that's my talk. Questions?
So a lot of what you talked about is about diversification, right? So
Yeah.
how do you, getting into different revenue streams? I guess, do you think it's unreasonable to say that you could not have added an additional channel and maybe something else, maybe not Lego, that were targeted towards kids, and
Oh yeah, I spent a whole long time thinking about the other channel I was going to launch. It was called Deeply Geeky. I launched it right as everything was falling apart and I had to lay off the employee. But he made an amazing video essay about queer coding in Harry Potter. That's the only video that's on Deeply Geeky. But that was going to be all a whole Patreon funded thing, and for adults, and like video essays, because I love video essays and that was what I was passionate about. And I was creatively burnt out on Lego, so I was like, yeah, this is going to be my new thing. And it was just kind of like a crazy weird diversion that went nowhere, right? Like how many other weird diversions that I didn't even cover in here have happened along the course of my business? I don't know, a lot. So yeah, I thought about it, but it's really hard to make something successful. Especially like...
I was wondering if you already had great success with Brickle when it was your way to...
Yeah, no, and I mean, like, I have 5,000 email addresses from Brick 101 fans from different contests that, like, the adults signed up for, and
Yep.
I'm like, I could email them. I guess I could do a Patreon, but it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't know. Like, I could. There's lots of ways. Like, if somebody were to come up and offer me a bunch of money for the channel, right, like, I might take them up on it, because, like, it'd just be nice to, like, get a chunk of change and be done with it. I know that would be a terrible decision. And I actually turned down an offer somebody made to buy my channel for $500,000 once. But it was a really bad deal. It doesn't sound as good as it sounds. It's not as good as it sounds. Anyway.
When you're doing it full time, do you know the percentage that you spend on editing, creating, writing, and then did you spend any time looking at competitors, or did you not care about that?
Yeah.
How would you break
So when I started full time, at first it was just me. That was really hard. Then I hired an employee, and specifically what they did was editing, because I hate it. So it was like the employee did all the editing. They did a lot of filming. So for the set reviews, Lego set reviews, there's a part where we speed build it all together. That would be their hands, because literally I just hand them a Lego set and they film it. And then I would come in and talk about it. And I did all the stuff of like searching competitors and thinking about positioning and what ideas we could steal from people, and positioning and stuff like that. So I know that's not percentages, but that's kind of how I broke it down.
Did you have to go back through all your videos and check out the kid box?
Yeah, so of my 600 videos, like 10 maybe were not for kids, because basically I was making Mario Maker videos a while ago, and those attract a very different audience that's not kid-centric. So my Mario Maker and other game-related content has been marked not for kids, and also these videos have been on there. They're not for kids. Like, I know, because it's a room full of adults. So there were some videos that I could legitimately say, and if you look at these videos, they get a fraction of the views that my other videos get, because it's not for my main audience. So YouTube knows not to even show it to them, because no kid wants to watch this. No offense. I mean, I want to watch this.
Put on
Yeah, I don't know. And it's like, I'm in a weird place, right? Because Brick 101 has a legacy of what it is and what it's about. And like, the logical thing would be to, if I want, like, the logical business thing would be, I don't have to make the content, right? I could pay other people to make Lego content and put it on Brick 101. And you know, if I can get the margins right, it could still be a thing. And that would be better than posting the random stuff I'm doing now. But like, also the culture of YouTube, right, is that people are their channels. Not everybody does it that way, but there are people who have pivoted, like, you know, Shane Dawson, who does all the documentaries now, and other people. And even if I lost 90% of my subscribers, and subscribers don't really matter that much, like, I would still have more of an audience than I would probably have starting from scratch for several years. So I'm kind of just like going forward, and you know, I've gotten some great. Oh, okay. So now I don't get comments on my videos anymore, right? Because any video that's for kids can no longer have comments on it. So that's another way that the entire engine of my business has been destroyed. Not only do I not make money on videos that are marked for kids, all those 200,000 comments disappeared off of YouTube when they flipped the switch. What?
You can't even see them?
No, I can see them, and I archived them in advance just in case, so I have them, but nobody else can see them. And like the number, I used to get like, you know, 40 comments a day or 500 a week, I don't know, something like that. And now I get like 2, because again, 95% of my content was for kids. So like that other piece that was a huge part of how I built my business is also now just not possible. Yeah.
What about content, not your content, but I'm thinking of other content that could be for kids or not for kids? Like, let's say you were going to do one about,
Mario and Sonic.
yes.
Yeah, so there's, right, there's, in COPPA, the law that the FTC enforces, there's content for kids, content not for kids, and then there's general audience content, right? And so you're basically talking about general audience content, like, I don't know, like
Penguin show or something.
yeah, like a documentary about penguins, like might attract kids, might attract adults. It's not like clearly one way or the other. In the COPPA law, it says, you know, website operators should have a way that you can mark general audience, and that you can collect data on visitors to that type of content. But YouTube's system does not have a way to do that. So basically, if you make general audience content, you kind of have to do this guessing game or speak to a lawyer about, you know, can I really get off calling this not made for kids, or because it does attract some kids, should I really be safe rather than sorry and mark it for kids? And like the whole fact, like the FTC is going to come after individual YouTube content creators with fines is insane, right? Because we do not collect the data, right? So HBO owns Sesame Street now, right? So if HBO was collecting data illegally on people watching Sesame Street, the FTC wouldn't go after Sesame Workshop, right? They'd go after HBO. So it's kind of crazy that they're saying the people who create content and put it on YouTube as possibly one of many places they put content are liable for YouTube's collection of data. I mean, now that we have to say whether it is or is not for kids, right? That's where the liability gets pushed. But it's just like, there's no precedent for that really in the law, but it is based on a 1990 or a 2006 change. I don't know. I learned a lot about COPPA, and a lot of it's left my brain already, but it's terrible. Yeah?
Could you go into a little bit more of the email conversation you had when they reached out to you
For licensing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, right, like, again, like I can't take a lot of credit for that happening. They reached out and was like, hey, we have an app. We'd like to put your content on it. And then there was, like they offered a certain fee per video per year. And like we went back and forth on that, and that's changed a little bit. But they were basically already sold on my content because they had found it, right? This how to build Lego YouTube content, and decided, yeah, that'd be great on our app. You've got lots of views, right? Like my views were the reason they cared about my content. And like I had phone calls with them too. And like, so Epic, like we talked, went back and forth. Jam, which is now DIY.org, came to me with a really awful deal. Like they wanted it licensed for infinity, like not a specific time period. And they only wanted to pay me like $100 per video. I was like, hell no. Cause I get like $170 per video per year from Epic. And so I went back to Jam. I was like, yeah, this needs to have a time frame, one, and like this is not a good rate. And then they were like, oh, but like we really want your content. And like they like video chat, like higher up video chatted me to try and convince me, and I just said no again. And then like nothing. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, okay, we're gonna pay you this much. Like send us the files. I was like, okay, cool. So like, I don't know, saying no can really work in negotiation, right? If you have something that somebody wants and they came to you, right? It's not like I was trying to pitch them. Like I also tried to pitch a lot of people. I'm like, hey, pay me to make a video for you. And most people are like, oh, cool, what would that be? And then as soon as I send them the number, they're like, ha, no.
If it's somebody
Yeah.
you haven't heard of before, how do you know to trust it or not? Or if it's going to be deep?
Yeah, I mean, I did like research on Epic. Like I looked at the app. I was like, oh, this is a real company, and right, they were paying me money, and we had a contract. I had my lawyer look at the contract. You know, it's a business. It's business, right? So you just do all the things a business would do in a deal that's going to involve, you know, a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
Any other questions, or we can call it? Yeah, last question.
I've been noticing on YouTube there's a blue banner that says review new terms. Did you review that?
Yeah, I mean, they just changed some of the terms of service, and like basically there's people who have spoken much more eloquently about this than I. I think it was that they can get rid of content that they feel like is losing them money, right? Because YouTube hosts so much content for free, and so now they're allowed to like get rid of some of that content if they're not making money on it. They've never done that, to my knowledge, just like take videos off of YouTube because they're taking up server space. But they now are allowed to do that because we've all agreed to those terms. So, cool. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the internet. If you want to hang out, we're going to go to a bar nearby. What is that place called? It's like Kite something?
There's a picture of a kite.
Right?
So
Kite String Cantina.
Yeah.
It's a few blocks that way. So if some of you could help like put the room back together, and then we'll head out. And thanks.
Is it north?
It's like south. It's by the Addison Brown line stop. Let me stop the internet. Bye, internet.